Good morning. This is the second part of module 2. Here we will be discussing the direct and indirect methods of blood pressure measurement. Blood pressure is the most often measured and the most intensively studied parameter. The determination of only its maximum and minimum levels during each cardiac cycle, along with the information about other physiological parameters, is an invaluable diagnostic aid to assess the vascular condition and certain other aspects of cardiac performance. Blood is pumped by the left side of the heart into the aorta, which supplies it to the arterial circuit. Due to the load resistance of the arterioles and precapillaries, it loses most of its pressure and returns to the heart as a low pressure via highly distensible veins. Blood pressure or BP is a pressure exerted by circulating blood upon the walls of the blood vessels. Each time the heart contracts or beats, the blood is pumped out and creates a surge of pressure in the arteries. A person's blood pressure is usually expressed in terms of the systolic pressure over diastolic pressure and is measured in millimeters of mercury. Systolic pressure is the highest pressure in the artery produced during the heart's contraction or the systolic phase. The normal value is 120 mmHg. Diastolic pressure is the lowest pressure in the artery produced during the heart's relaxation phase. The normal value is 80 mmHg. Pulse pressure is the difference between the systolic and the diastolic pressures. The normal value is 40 mmHg. The average pressure throughout the cardiac cycle is reported as mean arterial pressure. There are two basic methods for measuring blood pressure, direct and indirect. The direct methods provide continuous and much more reliable information about the absolute vascular pressure from probes or transducers inserted directly into the bloodstream. But the additional information is obtained at the cost of increased disturbance to the patient and complexity of the equipment. On the other hand, the indirect methods consist of simple equipment and cause very little discomfort to the subject, but they are intermittent and less informative. They are based on the adjustment of a known external pressure equal to the vascular pressure so that the vessel just collapses. Now we will see the direct blood pressure measurement techniques, which are called the invasive techniques. The direct method of pressure measurement is used when the highest degree of absolute accuracy, dynamic response, and continuous monitoring is required. The method is also used to measure the pressure in deep regions inaccessible by indirect means. Direct method is an invasive technique where tests are done by cutting or entering a body part using medical instruments. Direct measurement of blood pressure is usually obtained by one of the three methods: catheterization, percutaneous insertion, and implantation of transducer in a vessel or in the heart. First we will see the method 1, catheterization. A catheter is a long tube that is introduced into the heart or a major vessel by way of a superficial vein or artery. Measurement of blood pressure with a catheter can be achieved in two ways. The first method is the fluid-filled catheter type, which transmits the pressure exerted on its fluid-filled column to an external transducer. This transducer converts the exerted pressure to electrical signals. The electrical signals can then be amplified and displayed or recorded. The second method uses the catheter tip probe, in which the sensor is mounted on the tip of the probe and pressure exerted on it are converted into the proportional electrical signals. The figure shows a typical setup of a pressure measuring system by the first method. A sterile saline solution is introduced into the catheter and the pressure exerted on its fluid-filled column is transmitted to an external transducer. This transducer converts the exerted pressure to electrical signals. Figure B shows a simplified circuit diagram commonly used for processing the electrical signals received from the pressure transducer for the measurement of arterial pressure. For the measurement of the systolic pressure, a conventional peak reading type voltmeter is used. When a positive going pressure pulse appears at A, diode D3 conducts and charges C3 to the peak value of the input signal, which corresponds to the systolic value. The time constant R3C3 is chosen in such a way that it gives a steady output to the indicating meter. The value of the diastolic pressure is derived in an indirect way. A clamping circuit consisting of capacitor C1 and diode D1 is used to develop a voltage equal to the peak-to-peak value of the pulse pressure. This voltage appears across the resistor R1. Diode D2 would then conduct and charge capacitor C2 to the peak value of the pulse signal. The diastolic pressure is indicated by a second meter M2, which shows the difference between the peak systolic minus the peak-to-peak pulse pressure signal. The second method of direct measurement of blood pressure is percutaneous insertion. For percutaneous insertion, a local anesthetic is injected near the site of inversion. A hollow needle is inserted at a slight angle towards the vessel. When the needle is in place, a catheter is fed through the hollow needle with some metal guide. When the catheter is securely placed in the vessel, the needle and guide are withdrawn. Blood pressure is sensed directly by attaching a transducer built into the tip of the catheter. The third method of direct measurement of blood pressure is implantation of a transducer in a vessel or heart. The transducer is more permanently placed in the blood vessel or heart by surgical methods. Transducer will be fixed in place in the appropriate vessel for a long period, therefore continuous recording of BP can be made. This method is employed usually in research experiments. Non-invasive methods do not require breaking the skin or entering the body. Now we will see the indirect blood pressure measurement or the non-invasive techniques. The indirect methods consist of simple equipment and cause very little discomfort to the subject, but they are intermittent and less informative. They are based on the adjustment of a known external pressure equal to the vascular pressure so that the vessel just collapses. The three methods for indirect blood pressure measurement are auscultatory method, oscillometric method, and ultrasonic method. We'll see the method 1, auscultatory method, or the Riva-Rocchi sphygmomanometer. The auscultatory method using sphygmomanometer employs a mercury column, an occlusive cuff, and a stethoscope. The cuff is wrapped around the patient's upper arm. Lightly press the stethoscope's bell, there is a microphone, over the brachial artery just below the cuff's edge. Sphygmomanometer works on the principle that when the cuff is placed on the upper arm and inflated, arterial blood can flow past the cuff only when the arterial pressure exceeds the pressure in the cuff. Initially, the pressure in the cuff is raised to a level well above the anticipated systolic pressure, that is around 180 mmHg, so that the flow of blood in the vessel is completely terminated. At this point, no sounds can be heard through the stethoscope because artery has been collapsed by the pressure of the cuff. A small valve slowly deflates the cuff at a moderate rate around 3 mm per second. Listen with the stethoscope for the sound of blood pulsing through the arteries and simultaneously observe the sphygmomanometer. When the cuff pressure reaches a level which is below the systolic pressure, a brief flow occurs. Tapping sounds called the Korotkov sounds are heard in the stethoscope, caused by the first jets of blood pushing through the occlusion. This first knocking sound is the subject's systolic pressure. If the cuff pressure is allowed to fall further, the sound continues, becoming less loud as the blood flow through the occlusion becomes smoother. When the knocking sound disappears, that is a diastolic pressure, and the flow becomes normal and uninterrupted. The sphygmomanometric technique depends upon the operator recognizing the occurrence and disappearance of the Korotkov sound with variations in cuff pressure. The figure shows the principle of blood pressure measurement based on Korotkov sounds. The second method for indirect blood pressure measurement is the oscillometric method. Most non-invasive blood pressure monitors use the oscillometric technique. The oscillometric method is based on oscillometric pulses or pressure pulses generated in the cuff during inflation or deflation. The cuff is placed on the patient's arm and the cuff bladder is inflated with air until the external pressure exceeds the intra-arterial systolic pressure and arterial flow past the cuff ceases. The cuff bladder pressure is slowly released. A pressure sensor inside the cuff detects arterial pulsations as oscillations. As the cuff pressure declines, the oscillations increase in amplitude to maximum, which represents the mean arterial pressure. The oscillation amplitude then declines until minimum. The only pressure actually measured is the pressure at the point of maximal amplitude, which corresponds to the mean arterial pressure. The oscillations begin at approximately systolic pressure and continue below diastolic, so that the systolic and diastolic pressure can be only estimated indirectly according to some empirically derived algorithms. The computer uses an algorithm or parameters designed by the manufacturers to produce the systolic and diastolic blood pressure readings. For example, the systolic and diastolic pressures may be calculated as the pressures at which the amplitude are a fixed percentage of the maximum oscillation. Each manufacturer has its own method, which means there may be considerable variations between the machines. The setup for the oscillometric method and the cuff pressure oscillations are shown in the figure. The onset of the pressure oscillations correlates with the systolic pressure. The cuff pressure at the point of maximum oscillation usually corresponds to mean arterial pressure, and the point at which the oscillation begins to rapidly decrease in amplitude correlates with the diastolic pressure. This method is advantageous in that no transducer need to be placed over the brachial artery and is less susceptible to external noise. And the cuff can be removed and replaced by the patient during ambulatory monitoring. The third method of indirect blood pressure measurement is ultrasonic Doppler shift method for blood pressure measurement. The ultrasonic Doppler shift blood pressure monitors have been designed based on the ultrasonic detection of arterial wall motion. The control logic incorporated in the instrument analyzes the wall motion signals to detect the systolic and diastolic pressures and displays the corresponding values. The incident ultrasound is scattered by the blood cells, and the frequency of this echo signals changes relative to the frequency which the probe transmits. The instrument detects this Doppler shift originating from the movement of the relatively slow moving brachial artery wall. So the observed Doppler frequency can be expressed as delta F is equal to 2 Vt by lambda c, where delta F is the Doppler frequency in Hertz, Vt is the velocity of the object, and lambda c is the carrier wavelength. We know that lambda c is equal to Vc by Fc, where lambda c is the wavelength of the carrier frequency in the medium, Vc is the velocity of the carrier frequency in the medium, and Fc is the carrier frequency in the medium. Substituting these values in the equation 2, we will get lambda c to be equal to 0.74 into 10 raised to minus 3 meters. Then we can express the Doppler frequency as delta F is equal to 2 Vt by 0.74 into 10 raised to minus 3, which is equal to 2.7 into 10 raised to 3 Vt Hertz. Thus delta F varies directly with the target velocity Vt, which is the motion of the brachial artery. In order to measure the blood pressure, the Doppler frequency shift due to the snapping action of the artery must be known. The arterial moment with the opening and closing of the artery is found to be 5 into 10 raised to minus 3 meters. Assuming that the snapping occurs in 0.1 seconds, which is the delta t, then the arterial wall velocity is obtained as Vt is equal to delta d, which is 5 into 10 raised to minus 3, divided by delta t, which is 0.1. That gives you 50 into 10 raised to minus 3 meter per second. By substituting the values of Vt into the Doppler equation 3, the artery motion Doppler frequency is given by 2.7 into 10 raised to 3 Vt, where when you substitute Vt, you will get 2.7 into 10 raised to 3 into 50 into 10 raised to minus 3, which gives you 135 Hertz. So the blood pressure instrument filters out the high frequency reflections caused due to the moving blood particles and senses the low frequency refractions originating from the movement of the relatively slow moving arterial wall. The figure shows the measurement of blood pressure using the ultrasonic Doppler shift principle. An occlusive cuff is placed on the arm with an ultrasonic transducer on the arm over the brachial artery. The cuff is inflated first to above systolic pressure and then deflated at a specified rate. A low energy ultrasonic beam at a frequency of 2 MHz is transmitted into the arm. The portion of the ultrasound that is reflected by the arterial wall shifts in frequency when the wall of the artery moves. Above systolic, the vessel remains closed due to the pressure of the occluding cuff and the monitor signals are not received. As the cuff pressure falls to the point where it is just overcome by the brachial artery pressure, the artery wall snaps open. This opening wall movement, corresponding to the occurrence of the first Korotkov sound, produces a Doppler shift which is interpreted by the logic in the instrument as systolic and displayed accordingly. With each subsequent pulse wave, a similar frequency shift is produced until at the diastolic pressure the artery is no longer occluded. Its rapid motion suddenly disappears and the Doppler shift becomes relatively small. The instrument notes the sudden reduction in the amplitude of the Doppler shift, and cuff pressure at this point is displayed as the diastolic pressure. The major subsystems in the instrument is shown in figure. The power supply block converts the incoming AC line voltage to several filtered and regulated DC voltages required for the pneumatic subsystem in order to inflate an occlusive cuff around the patient's arm. At the same time, the control subsystem signals gate on the transmitter in the RF and audio subsystem, thereby generating a 2 MHz carrier which is given to the transducer located in the cuff. The transducer converts the RF energy into ultrasonic vibrations which pass into the patient's arm. The cuff pressure is monitored by the control subsystem, and when the pressure reaches the preset level, further cuff inflation stops. At this time, audio circuits in the RF and audio subsystems are enabled by the control subsystem signals, and the audio signals representative of any Doppler frequency shift are thus able to enter the control subsystem logic. The control subsystem signals the pneumatic subsystem to bleed off the cuff pressure at a rate determined by the preset bleed rate. As air bleeds from the cuff, the frequency of the return RF is not appreciably different from the transmitted frequency as long as the brachial artery remains occluded. Till then, there are no audio signals entering the control subsystem. At the systolic pressure, the occluded artery snaps open and the arterial blood flow starts. This artery motion results in a Doppler shift in the returning ultrasonic vibrations. The converted audio frequency signal is recognized as tentative systolic by the control subsystem logic. At diastole, the cuff pressure equals or slightly exceeds the arterial wall pressure. As a result, wall snapping ceases and the RF and audio subsystem no longer receive the Doppler shifted returns. The reading is registered and the cuff pressure is allowed to deflate rapidly to atmospheric pressure. The readings are held fixed until a new measurement cycle is initiated. Thank you.